The story begins in a quaint countryside where a spirited orphan girl named Heidi lives under the care of her aunt. However, due to changing circumstances, her aunt is no longer able to keep her. With little explanation, she takes young Heidi on a journey into the vast Swiss Alps, intending to leave her with someone long forgotten, her grandfather, Alpo High. As they ascend the rugged mountain path, Heidi becomes overwhelmed by the stiffness of her dress and the weight of the unknown future. She rips off her dress to feel free, embracing the wind and nature. Meanwhile, her aunt ignores the ominous whispers in the village that Alpo High is a reclusive man accused of a dark crime. When they arrive at his cabin nestled high in the mountains, Alpo High flatly refuses to take the girl in. Undeterred, the aunt pretends to leave with Heidi, but cunningly abandons her, disappearing down the trail. Alpo High is furious, but the damage is done. With nowhere to go, Heidi finds a space in the barn among goats and settles down for the night. At dawn, Alpo High offers Heidi a bowl of fresh goat's milk and leads her to the village priest. The priest examines her and confirms she is healthy. He urges Alpo High to accept his responsibility. Begrudgingly, he relents and allows Heidi to stay, though the cabin is barely equipped for two. Heidi finds a pile of hay and turns it into her makeshift bed, happy in the attic with only stars above her. The next day, Heidi meets Peter, a local boy tasked with taking the goats out to graze. Alpo High sends Heidi with him and packs a simple lunch of bread and cheese. In the meadows under the boundless sky, Heidi feels alive. But Peter, mischievous and hungry, secretly eats some of her food. When caught, he blames the goats. Heidi catches on, but instead of getting angry, she offers to share half her lunch every day if he promises never to strike the goats again. Peter agrees and begs her to keep it secret. Later, Heidi becomes distant from Alpo High, choosing to sleep in the barn. He suspects she's heard the town gossip about him and gently tells her to listen to her own heart instead of rumors. Moved, Heidi hugs him and returns to sleep peacefully in the attic. As days pass, the bond between Heidi and her grandfather grows. He crafts furniture, adds a second chair to the table, and fully welcomes her into his life. Heidi and Peter become inseparable, running through the meadows, watching clouds and tending goats. She even cuts her hair short to feel more like herself. Peter announces one day that he must start school and can't play until spring. Heidi wants to attend too, but Alpo High knows the harsh winter makes travel impossible. As winter arrives, Heidi grows bored inside. Alpo High carves her a wooden bird, but her restlessness persists. He builds a sled and takes her speeding through snow-covered hills, bringing joy back to her eyes. To lift her spirits further, he drops her at Peter's home. There, Heidi meets Peter's kind mother and frail grandmother. Their home is poor, but filled with love. Heidi realizes how lucky she is and hugs her grandfather with newfound gratitude. But just when life seems perfect, her aunt returns. Claiming she now has a job and can care for Heidi, she asks to take her back. Alpo High doesn't trust her, but can't stop her. The aunt tricks him again, finds Heidi playing with Peter, and tells her that Alpo High wants her to come. Trusting her grandfather's name, Heidi agrees. They travel to Frankfurt and arrive at a luxurious mansion. Heidi is introduced to Clara, a rich girl in a wheelchair. Clara's governess, Fräulein Rottenmeier, disapproves of Heidi, finding her rough and unsophisticated. But Clara takes an instant liking to Heidi. Though rough around the edges, Heidi begins to adapt. She's cleaned up and taught manners. She studies with Clara, though everyone is shocked that she cannot read or write. Rottenmeier wants to send her away but is forced to wait for Clara's father. She demands that the professor teach Heidi quickly. Despite learning the house rules, Heidi remains true to herself, often hiding bread in her pockets. She wins Clara's heart with her sincerity. One day, Clara confides in Heidi about her sorrow. She stopped walking after her mother died. That evening, Heidi asks Sebastian, the butler, to open the window so she can see the mountains, but all she finds is a cold cityscape. Desperate to see real mountains, Heidi sneaks Clara out of the mansion. They visit the city tower. Heidi climbs higher in search of mountains, leaving Clara alone for a moment. Meanwhile, Clara buys kittens from a street vendor. Back home, the staff panics, searching the market for them. Sebastian finds them. Clara hides the kittens under her blanket. At dinner, Fräulein Rottenmeier scolds Heidi and punishes her by making her stand in a corner. Feeling misunderstood, Heidi decides to run away. She gathers the hidden bread and tries to escape but is caught. Rottenmeier berates her for being ungrateful. The guilt of Clara's worsening health weighs heavily on Heidi. When Clara recovers, Heidi assures her that she was not trying to leave her. The bond between the girls strengthens. Later, Clara's father and grandmother arrive. They are impressed by Clara's happiness. Rottenmeier tries to persuade them to send Heidi away, but Clara's grandmother decides to see for herself. That night, she reads Heidi a bedtime story, but purposely leaves it unfinished. Intrigued, Heidi admits she doesn't want to study because Peter once told her it's pointless. The grandmother explains that stories open worlds, and it's important to think independently. Inspired, Heidi begins to study diligently. Soon, she proudly reads the story aloud to the entire family. Clara's father realizes Heidi's worth, but Heidi remains melancholy, homesick for her mountains. One night, strange noises echo in the mansion. Clara's father's friend investigates and discovers it's Heidi, sleepwalking and standing under the open sky. A doctor diagnoses her with homesickness and warns that her health is at risk. Though reluctant, Clara's father decides she must return. Clara locks herself in her room, heartbroken. Before leaving, Heidi gives Clara's father the wooden bird Alpo High had carved and promises Clara they'll meet again. Fräulein Rottenmeier believes peace has returned, but as she turns, she sees a kitten. The cook adopts it and names it Heidi. Back in the Alps, Heidi receives a warm welcome. Alpo High now sends her to school, and during winters, they move to a house in town. Heidi flourishes under a kind teacher and embraces her new life. Still, she misses Clara deeply. Clara, touched by Heidi's letters, regrets not saying goodbye. Her grandmother decides to take her to the mountains. The two friends reunite joyfully. Clara stays with Heidi for a few days, experiencing her simple life firsthand. But Peter becomes jealous. One day, he pushes Clara's wheelchair off a cliff. Shocked, everyone realizes Peter's mistake. Alpo High watches over both children closely afterward. One day, Clara spots a butterfly and stands up to follow it. With effort and Heidi's help, she takes small steps. Days later, her father and grandmother arrive and are overjoyed to see her walking. Before leaving, Clara promises they'll reunite. Her grandmother gives Heidi a diary and pen. In the final scene, Heidi tends goats beside Peter, scribbling in her diary as her dream of storytelling begins. And so, the tale of a mountain girl and her journey through sorrow, love, and friendship ends on a heartwarming note.